Today we're going to take a look at blend modes and the eyedropper tool here in Adobe Illustrator. Okay, we have some instructions on the left-hand side that kind of help guide you as to remember the different steps that we're going to be looking at right now. And the first step is I want you to go in and change the opacity of the two rectangles. So I'm going to get my selection tool, and we're going to talk about opacity first. Okay, so opacity is how opaque something is. And when something is opaque, it's not transparent. So your hand is 100% opaque. You can't see through your hand as one object. A window, on the other hand, is like 0% opaque or 100% transparent. So in Illustrator and Photoshop, we control the opacity instead of the transparency. And so as you slide that up and down, you'll notice that my red rectangle here is changing in the degree of visibility to the shapes beneath it. So we need to change both of them. I don't really care what number you do, as long as you can kind of see that that's changed. All right. Now, in addition to just simply the opacity, I want to also talk about something called blend modes. And we get the blend modes by clicking on the word opacity. And then the blend modes are this drop-down menu right here where it says normal. When I click on normal, I'm going to get a whole bunch of different blend options for my shape. These first few are for darkening and things like that. But they all basically are going to do different things and interact differently depending on the colors and the shapes that I have in their order. So you'll notice that as I change the blend modes, my shapes are overlapping here. And where they overlap, it's not just doing what the rectangle did with the transparency. I'm only changing the blend mode on this orange one, but because it's on top, it's going to create a different effect depending on my blend mode, okay? Multiply tends to do what would essentially be a rough version of what those two colors would look like mixed together. Now my other shape here, my other hexagon, if I wanted to change the blend mode on this one, it's not gonna do much to change what happens with the orange circle, but it's going to change how it interacts with that transparent rectangle underneath it. And so as you play around with these blend modes, you'll start seeing some different things going on, dictating how it's all going to work. But that is the blend mode. We can still come in here and change the opacity. It has a bunch of different things that we can play around with this. But those are the blend modes and the opacity. So you need to go in and change those. But the last tool I want to have us learn about right now is the eyedropper tool. And I felt like this was a good time to throw it into the mix because sometimes when you're working in Illustrator, you have multiple objects that you're working with, but you want them to all look exactly the same. Maybe they have the same stroke, or maybe they have the same colors. And so that's where this tool right here comes in handy. It's called the eyedropper. The letter I will give you the eyedropper. When you have an object selected, it will copy and apply the appearance attributes between the object selected to the object selected from the one that you use the eyedropper tool on. So I first off had to click on this white circle, which is the one that we're going to be changing. And then I go to the eyedropper tool by either clicking on the tool or pressing I. And we want to take the properties of this triangle right here. So this triangle has a pattern in it, and it has this stroke around it that's pretty thick. And so when I click on the triangle with my eyedropper tool, because I have the circle selected, it's going to change the circle to match those same properties. And so now I have a circle with the pattern on it. I don't need to change anything else to the circle, but if we take a look at things like our blend modes, we'll see how those can interact differently with these different things. And so, you can play around with it, see what you can do. But those are the key components to this. All right. Let's say, however, I wanted to take this. I have this square here, and it looks like this right now. But I wanted to have the same pattern as the circle, but I don't want the stroke. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the square. I'm going to get the eyedropper tool. And when I hold down the shift key, oh, never mind. So once you have all of that done, then you can go ahead and save this and turn this in, and you've learned about blend modes, transparency or opacity in this case, and the eyedropper tool.